Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us here on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. Breaking this morning, Brooklyn Park police say a boy is dead after a shooting overnight. Officers say it happened just before 11 last night at Hartkopf Park on Florida Avenue North. This is new video we got from the scene. In a release overnight, police say they treated the victim on scene, but he was later pronounced dead. Brooklyn Park and Hennepin County investigators are working to figure out what exactly happened. Now, that shooting in Brooklyn Park happened as another shooting investigation is happening in Minneapolis. Our Audrey Russo is at HCMC with details.
Yeah, a violent 36 hours in the city of Minneapolis and counting, to be honest. Now, our crews were at the scene of a shooting in the northeast part of the city just a couple of hours ago, and we're here in front of HCMC this morning because we're following up on reports that 3 people showed up here shortly before 3 a.m. with gunshot wounds. So take a look at this video. This is what our crews captured at 13th Avenue Northeast. You can see officers with flashlights scanning for evidence by the Grain Belt bottling building. Now, our crews also saw the mobile crime lab on scene, but it's not clear if the people who showed up at HCMC were linked to this scene. So we put out a call to Minneapolis police for more information. We'll be sure to update you when we get that. Now, MPD officers had a fairly busy weekend. In the overnight following 4th of July celebrations, 4 separate shootings left 4 people injured and 1 dead. Minneapolis police say they haven't made any arrests as of this morning, but the interim police chief did put out a statement acknowledging that the 4th of July is the busiest day of the year for their agency. He also went on to express condolences for the folks who were involved in the shootings, the victims. And he also went on to say that some of the proactive measures that the department took actually may have helped stymie some additional crime, saying that some additional illegal firearms were recovered in the process. Back to you.
Well, today marks 10 years since Philando Castile was shot and killed by a St. Anthony police officer. And tonight, friends and family members will come together for a candlelight vigil at Larpenteur Avenue and Fry Street. His family says it'll be an evening of remembrance, reflection, and community. Castile was shot during a traffic stop in Falcon Heights that was streamed live on Facebook by Castile's girlfriend. The officer who shot him was acquitted of all charges back in 2017. Castile's mother reached a wrongful death settlement with the city. Right now, police in St. Louis Park are investigating a string of car break-ins that all happened on the same street. Police received multiple reports on a 4-block stretch of Quinton Avenue from Minnetonka Boulevard to 26th Street. According to police, officers took 18 reports of vehicle tampering and property stolen at around 5 o'clock yesterday morning. Police could not confirm the total amount of vehicles damaged. One victim tells us his passenger side window was shattered.
I'm very frustrated. Not something I want to have to deal with, especially having to go to work and now not being able to and finding a different car to get to work. So very inconvenient.
Definitely. Some neighbors also reporting garage break-ins. Anyone with any information that could help the investigation should contact the St. Louis Park Police Department. Developing this morning, Allina hospice workers say that they're hitting the picket line as they fight for a new contract. The union says negotiations have slowed down dramatically since this past winter. Megan McPherson has the latest.
Good morning. Yeah, some 65 hospice nurses, some of them, as you can see, already out here behind me this morning, but about 65 total will be out here this morning on the picket line as their push for a first contract continues. As you can probably hear some cars behind me. The picketing just got started here at 7 a.m. It will continue throughout the day, and there is also a rally that will be happening here outside of Abbott Northwestern Hospital. That is set for noon today. All of this comes after this strike was approved earlier this month, but it is not the first labor dispute for Allina Health, though. We are looking at video from last November when hundreds of Allina doctors, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners walked off the job for a day in what was believed to be the largest physician strike in U.S. history. Well, now hospice nurses here say that they've been negotiating for their first contract for nearly a year, but they claim that progress has stalled, and the union representing them says key issues include interim raises while bargaining continues, along with workplace policies they say impact work-life balance. I did want to note that, again, this strike is only expected to last 1 day, so the impact on patients, they say, will be minimal. I have reached out to Allina for a statement, and I wanted to note that here. In that statement, they say that they are disappointed in this group for their inability to necessarily come to an agreement, and that they're choosing to strike rather than continue meaningful negotiations with the help of a federal mediator. They say they know that the bargaining table is the best place to reach an agreement and that patient care is their top priority. All of this we will continue to follow. Of course, all of this too comes as Allina Health just months ago announced that they are expected to merge with Sutter Health. And although that might seem like a financially beneficial deal for Allina, there are some doctors that work for them and then also some healthcare experts that are not too fond of that deal. Back to you.
Megan, thank you. Well, today, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk is in court for his preliminary hearing. Prosecutors are expected to lay out their case against Tyler Robinson and prove they have enough evidence to seek the death penalty. Investigators say that Robinson shot Kirk from a rooftop while he was speaking at Utah Valley University. The hearing is expected to last through the end of the week. A live look from the Capitol this morning. We're learning President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could meet for the first time since the war in Iran began. CNN is reporting this meeting could happen sometime this week. It comes just days after President Trump said in an interview that Netanyahu, quote, knows who the boss is, end quote. Tensions, though, have been rising between the two leaders after Israel spoke out against the U.S. trying to negotiate a ceasefire with Iran. Trump has also openly criticized Netanyahu for Israel's continued attacks on Lebanon. Well, from the weather to a white nationalist group over this weekend, Salute to America event in Washington made a few unexpected headlines. Storm warnings sent thousands on the National Mall fleeing for cover, while earlier images of masked men marching with Confederate flags sparked their own fireworks online. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest.
Hi there. President Trump is preparing to turn to foreign policy this week with a likely focus on Ukraine after a busy weekend spent celebrating America's 250th birthday. President Trump leaving later today to meet with European allies at the NATO summit in Turkey, a key moment for the alliance he's been critical of, while first gaining headlines over another international organization, FIFA. President Trump called the head of the body that runs the World Cup and asked him to review the suspension of the U.S. men's soccer team's star striker, Philando Castile. According to a source familiar with the conversation, Balogun was supposed to miss today's game against Belgium following a controversial red card in the last match. But now he's cleared to play. The president on Truth Social thanked FIFA for reversing what he called a great injustice. That after a series of setbacks for this weekend's 250th anniversary celebrations on the National Mall. A storm threat forced an evacuation, pushing the fireworks until around midnight, right after a speech from President Trump that was part patriotic.
We're celebrating freedom's triumph over tyranny.
And part political.
America will never be a communist country. Won't happen.
Adding to his pre-midterms messaging about what he sees as far-left influence and using the moment to push the Save America Elections Overhaul bill he's made his top priority, despite Senate Republicans saying it doesn't have the votes to pass.
All voters must provide a little thing called proof of citizenship. And there will be no mail-in ballots.
The Capitol's July 4th festivities marked by this controversial moment when members of a white supremacist group marched through the streets wearing masks and waving Confederate flags. And here, a woman surrounded by them on the city's metro. Police say the group marched briefly around the Capitol and left before 11 a.m. Saturday. The administration's Interior Secretary Doug Burgum reacted, saying he could never possibly agree with what the group stands for, while underscoring foundational free speech rights that he said make democracy messy. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
In today's Communities That Care, a celebration on Lake Minnetonka for the 4th of July, honoring veterans at Cabana Anna's. The restaurant welcomed people celebrating the 4th with the national anthem, followed by a live taps performance. It's a tradition for Gary Markwart, who's been volunteering to perform taps at veterans' funerals for over 10 years now. He actually is playing at Cabana Anna's every night, saying it is important to keep veterans' memories alive.
I'm a part of an organization of 5,000 buglers who provide live taps at veterans' funerals, all volunteers all over the country. There are 173 of us in Minnesota, and we probably do between 700 and 1,000 funeral services a year.
And it was a special moment for Gary, too, as he got to perform the taps alongside his grandson. Well, be sure to stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.